welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. My guest today is an alumnus from the Executive MBA program, a flagship program at the Shidler College of Business. It started back in 1977, and all the alumni are really special professionals who contribute to the economic, cultural well-being of the state. Today, my guest is Lance Higa, who is with Hawaiian Airlines. Lance, thank you so much for joining me.
Alice, thank you for having me.
Well, as I mentioned, alumni from EMBA program is a special bunch, and before we started the show, I was telling you that I've actually have had the opportunity to interview quite a few of them. Doug Inouye from Ember 13, I think, and then Steve Sombrero, who is the president of Cheney Brooks from Ember 8, and I can go on and on. But today it's about you, and I'd like to learn about why you decided to join the program and your aviation career in Hawaiian Airlines.
Sure.
So I know you've been with Hawaiian for a long time, almost 30 years right now. Correct?
October will make 29 years. It feels like about 30, but it's been a blessing. I think I was very fortunate to find this particular job. I was always in love with aviation, and when I came back from tech school, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity. They weren't hiring a lot of people back when I got out of school, but it's worked out, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I've never thought about leaving.
That's fantastic. Well, we will have a lot of questions about that. But first of all, I'd like to make a comment about your shirt. Wonderful shirt. Tell us a little bit about it. I know it's a hot commodity, right?
Well, I don't know if it's a hot commodity. I know that they're very limited. You can't get them anymore. They don't make them. But our logo store produced them for about 6 months, and they sold out. And I keep asking our logo store people to bring it back, because I get requests probably monthly on where I got it and how they can get it.
Do you know some of the stories behind the images?
They're just, well, they're Hawaii pictures, you know, Hawaiiana, and some of the aircraft that we used to fly. It's just meant to be a little nostalgic.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully they will bring that back.
I hope so. I have enough people asking me, so I think it's a revenue opportunity. So I'm
there
sure
you go.
Peter Ingram would be interested.
There's a business idea
sure,
there.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, I have to put a plug in for the Executive MBA program. This year we will be welcoming, I think, the 20th cohort in August. And I know that you graduated from you graduated in 2005. So
Correct.
I guess the number is kind of fortuitous here. So tell me, why did you decide to get into the program at the beginning?
Well, it's something I've always wanted to pursue. I've always thought about getting an MBA, and it was more so looking at what timing would be good for me. At the time, I wasn't married and have kids, and I thought it would be probably the most advantageous time. It is a challenging program. It takes a lot out of your schedule. You have to learn how to balance, work, home, and school life. But I did research, and at that time it was the University of Hawaii College of Business,
right.
And they were a top 20 business school. So it just made sense, and I thought a cohort type of program would be advantageous to go through a program with a lot of professionals who are already in the community, and it worked out perfectly.
Well, I know that.
I met my wife there.
I'm sorry?
I met my wife there. I did. So you can get an education and some romance if you're lucky.
That's fantastic. But that's actually pretty common. I've heard other cohorts having similar stories, but we won't go into those details there.
Probably not for this show.
But now you mentioned networking with professionals, and I think this has always been a special program, not just for the participants who went through that. Even at the college, the dean regards it, has high regards for it. They're all very tight-knit. I mean, we started back in 1977, and I know the Ember ones still get together, and we are in Ember 20s. So I guess if you can talk a little bit about your cohort, that would be great.
Sure. So the cohort program is unique in that you spend all of your time in school with the same group of people, or with the group of people who end up making it to the end. There are, attrition. There is attrition, I should say. It's a challenging program. So a lot of people don't understand the commitments that are required. But the relationships you build are very strong because it's 2 years with the same group of people, and a lot of interaction, creates that closeness and that bond. One of the great things about going through a cohort program is that you get to understand people's strengths and opportunities. You get to trade ideas and learn, through each other's experiences and through projects. And it also builds a sense of accountability to one another because there are projects that require everybody's full and dedicated participation. Yeah. And no one wants to let anyone else down.
Right.
And through going through the program with that group of people, from start to finish, you naturally build bonds, and we still keep in touch with many of our classmates.
Yeah, I know that when I was working with the program, the thing I always say to prospective candidates, you probably spend more time with your fellow cohorts than your family for those 2 years. Yep. Was it like that for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it was a good time in my life to do it because I didn't have family commitments. A lot of them did, and it was a struggle at times. It's every other weekend on Saturday, which, is generally family time. And it's after work on Tuesdays. That's the way it was for us. And it's a huge time commitment. So anyone considering going into it really needs to determine, how they're going to balance each part of their life. I mean, it is literally a work, home, and school balance. It's a three-legged stool, and they have to be very balanced because you will not be able to succeed in the program unless you give it the necessary effort.
What would you say was the most challenging part for you? Is that the balance, or are there other things that was equally challenging and that you didn't expect?
Great question. I think for people with families, it's the biggest challenge. For myself, it was work. Maintaining full-time employment, and in the type of job I was doing, it was demanding on time. A lot of times our group meetings would be at the Hawaiian Airlines facility in the conference room right after work. It's about 6, 7 o'clock, and the people in my group were in the same situation. They were all working professionals. So you'd be there till 10, 11 o'clock at night and do it again the next day and do it again the next day. So
it's amazing the commitment that you all have. Really, with every group, they sign on to the program. I said, I don't know if I could do that, but they're all committed. And I mean, you mentioned that there were attrition, but it's such a small number, and usually it happens at the beginning. So really hats off to all of you and all the alumni and the incoming group of students. Now, going back to, you were talking about some of the professionals, different professionals in your group. Can you tell me a little bit about how diverse your group was?
Sure. We had a number of types of businesses represented. We had a big contingent of military personnel. We had people in the medical profession. We had entrepreneurial people, people in healthcare, and it was extremely diverse. I was very impressed, like I told you prior to this interview, that our military contingent was very, very intelligent, very engaged. I was very, very pleasantly surprised with the level of aptitude of our military leaders, because it gives you a sense of well-being that they're protecting the country. I mean, very, very bright individuals.
That's nice of you to say that. Some other perhaps memorable experience, and I asked that of all the alumni who have come on to the show, so what would that be for you?
They were all memorable. To categorize any one event as more memorable than the others would be probably unfair. I did not go on the Asian field study, but 90% of our cohort did, and they explained it as probably the most enriching experience that they had. For me, it was just honestly the achievement of getting an MBA after questioning whether or not I could get through it and do it, and I surprised myself at times. But the bonds that you build with the cohort and the communications after the program are really, they're part of my life now. So it continues to give back to me. I really enjoy it. I enjoy seeing some of my classmates at the Shidler Alumni Association Board of Directors, and talking with some of the different embas there. We all share that same bond of having gone through that program and being able to identify.
Now, what made you decide to join the Shidler board?
I was approached by a previous classmate of mine, and they were looking for someone that had some Hawaiian ties. And I talked to the president, Kurt Horiuchi, and they had a pretty full board. And I explained to him that I would love to be a part of it, but I fully understand if, you know, there's not an opening. But, you know, anything they need, they could give me a call. And 3 weeks later, I got a call that I was, you know, up for election, and they had an event, and I was voted in, and now I'm part of it, and I'm thrilled to be part of it. I'm a little worried about the time commitment, but, you know, we get through it. It's like EMBA, you know, you get through it. You find time to do the things that are important.
Well, thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
You talk about gaining so much from the program, but I mean, the conversation, the 15-minute conversation we've had, it's all about you giving back. And you know how you said that before the show, you said, oh, the program sells itself. You know, without the alumni, when I was with the program, you speak so well about the program, and very often I think it's the alumni that brought, you know, prospective candidates to the to the new program. So it's really amazing.
Yeah. When I applied, I was worried about acceptance into the program. I thought it was going to be a difficult program to get into because of the limited number of people they take. Right. So I did what I could. I studied hard. I made sure that all of my scores were good, and I was very surprised that when I met with the counselor at the time that I was accepted. And you know, I explained to her at the time. I said, I'm not sure I can get through this. You know, I'm not the smartest person. And she said, well, I think you can do it. And she was right. It took a lot of effort. Yeah.
Well, I think I would say the same thing too. I guess as long as you have that, the attitude, the heart, the work ethics, then people do go through the program. But one last question before the break. So for new incoming students, you mentioned the work-life balance. What other advice would you give them now that you've gone through the program, even though it was some time ago? But yeah, what would you advise them?
I think the best piece of advice I could give to a potential candidate is to contact somebody who has gone through the program and get a good real-life overview of what you can expect. That's very important to have your expectations, you know, in line with what you're actually going to experience, and to, if you have a family and have other commitments, to ensure that you include them in the decision. Have very, very frank discussions about the amount of time that you have to invest in it. Make pacts and deals with the people in your life to understand that you'll be able to participate in certain things and not other things, and that it is temporary, and it is an investment in your future and your family's future, definitely. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Now, when we come back from the break, we've talked about your program experience, so now I'd like to switch gear and talk about your aviation career.
Glad to talk about it.
Great. My guest is Lance Higa. He is the Senior Director at Maintenance Planning and Operations Control at Hawaiian Airlines, also a proud alumnus of our Executive MBA program at the Shidler College of Business. You're watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Aloha, I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week, we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. If you are just joining us, my guest is Lance Higa, an alumnus of Shidler College of Business Executive MBA program, also currently working at Hawaiian Airlines as their Senior Director and Maintenance Operations Control. If you have questions and if you'd like to tweet us, our address is ThinkTechHI. Now, Lance, you shared with us your really positive experience from the program. Now, let's talk a little bit about your aviation career. You've been with the airline for 29 years, and of course, it's I guess, an iconic company, how I would see that for our state. Why aviation? What drew you to that profession?
Well, as a kid, I was fascinated with airplanes and aerodynamics, and I built a lot of models. And of course, you know, as a kid, you blow them up with firecrackers and whatnot, but I built them again, and I had a very acute fascination with aviation. From a very young age, I knew I would be working in the industry in some way, shape, or form. I'm glad I picked the career path I did, because the maintenance side of it is fascinating to me, and it's very rewarding work.
Well, I guess I have a teenager, and then, you know, I hear from his friends. Some of them are interested in aviation. They all want to be pilots. Was that something that you were interested in too?
I was. In fact, it's a tough field to get into because of the requirements for education and flight time. It's very expensive. But I had bought an airplane at that time, and my dream was to eventually get enough hours to be a pilot. But as I worked more and more with the maintenance organization, I found that I was connected to it. I had a bond with that part of the business, and at some point in time, I just said, you know, I really want to do this instead. And I wanted to fly still recreationally, so I did for a while, and I eventually sold my airplane because it's a lot of work to maintain it. And maintaining airplanes at work and then doing it after work is just not something that's a lot of fun.
That's like two jobs, right?
You're just working all the time.
Right,
like.
right.
But no, I adore what I do today.
Great. Now, of course, as a layperson looking at Hawaiian Airlines, for me, I buy the ticket, I get on the plane, I get from A to B. So maintenance, tell us a little bit more about what that is that you do.
Sure. In my area, we take care of all of the maintenance planning and maintenance operations control. I'll start with the maintenance planning piece of it. Aircraft are required to have inspections at given intervals, time and cycle intervals, and we are responsible to ensure that all of those intervals are met within the regulatory guidelines. So what we do is we look for the opportunities in the schedule, resource availability, and we schedule all of the planned maintenance. From the maintenance operations control side, that group takes care of all of the in-service aircraft. So aircraft that are live and flying are handled by them. They handle all of the irregular operations maintenance requirements, setting up resources to come in and assist in returning aircraft to service. They also manage our deferred items program, and they basically are the representative for maintenance in the operational divisions of Hawaiian Airlines. So the System Operations Control Center consists of our aircraft dispatchers, flight division, crew scheduling, MOC, and wide-body maintenance planning. So they oversee that part of it.
Now, okay, that all sounds very technical, and just based on what we talked about before the break, you know, your business education. So how does the business education part come into what you do on a daily basis?
Another excellent question. You know, as part of our responsibilities, we are required to run the business of our business. Simply taking time control items, putting them on a work order and sending it out to the maintenance technicians is just part of our responsibility. Our bigger responsibility is to anticipate what challenges you'll have in the future, to be strategic in that way, to be able to analyze the changing conditions in the maintenance realm of the business, to look at ways of controlling costs and maximizing yield on maintenance checks to reduce the number of events you'll do in the overall life of the aircraft. So our job is to try and be as efficient as possible. And you know, the business is very competitive. Maintaining costs and being cost competitive is probably our biggest focus after safety. Safety being paramount in anything we do. Yes.
Now, you've done a lot of you've been through quite a lot of positions in your past 29 years there. So I guess I want to save some of the questions about the airline industry in general, but based on your experience, past 29 years and some of the different positions that you've been, tell us about that, and you know, what are some of the perhaps memorable ones again?
They're all memorable in their own way. There are highs and lows in everything you do. If you had to ask me what my favorite one is, it is the one I'm doing now, because you know, people may be watching, and I want them to understand that I'm fully engaged in what I'm doing. But they've all been enriching. Every one of them has given me a different perspective into the business. I worked with our customer service group, overseeing the policies, procedures, and training department. It was very eye-opening for people who've never worked in that environment to understand the intricacies and challenges that they go through on a daily basis. I worked in the SOC as the senior director there for almost 8 years. So I had a good oversight opportunity with all of the operating departments and building relationships that way. They've all been educational and rewarding. I've enjoyed everything. I've had a lot of luck in being in the right place at the right time when opportunities opened up. And I think one of the things that I would say is Hawaiian is small enough of a company where you have a tremendous amount of opportunity if you want to try different things, and if you have the skill sets, that can translate over departmental boundaries, you can certainly find opportunities.
Wow. Now, when you joined 29 years ago, I guess looking back, so what are some of the differences that you've noticed then?
We have transitioned the company, or I should say leadership has transitioned the company from a very tactical organization, more focused on on-time performance and getting planes in and out, to a more strategic organization looking at business and how we're going to poise ourselves in the future to compete in a very global marketplace. Our growth over the last 6 or 7 years has been huge, and we've gotten into the international markets. You and I talked a little bit about the factors that affect our passenger demographic and things such as the conversion rates for currency have huge impacts on what we do. Things that we didn't really think about in the past, but are realities of business today. And I think Mark Dunkerley has a very, very acute eye for cost control and strategic direction for the company. We've really come a long way under his leadership, and I think a lot of us here would tell you that the morale and the attitude at Hawaiian is so much better than it used to be back when we were struggling.
What was it like before then?
Doing a lot with nothing. That was kind of the mantra. You would do as much as you could with very little resources. It was a lot of autocratic top-down, but it's really changed. Mark is very, very focused on employee enrichment and fulfillment in the job.
Wow,
invested a lot of resources into training and employee programs that weren't existent before.
Now, are there a lot of perhaps employees like you who have been there for a long time?
We have a lot of high seniority employees, but we have a good mix of fresh, new, young people coming in as well. A lot of analytics coming in, a lot of talent in that regard. We are learning from some of the older people like myself are learning a lot from some of the newer people coming in.
You talk about analytics. I know this wasn't what I'm interested in learning more a little bit about that. What does that mean, and how does that drive business?
So analytics are really it's the foundation of managing a good business. From the maintenance side, we look at various trends and look at causal effects of what happens when we do certain things. Try to anticipate, what certain changes are going to result in the way of on-time performance, deferred items. There's a lot of analysis and a lot of data collection where we didn't have it before. We didn't have a lot of data collection, or we were not really application focused. We weren't looking at how the data could help us run the business. We were looking at how I get my airplane out tomorrow with a problem today. And now it's much more strategic. Even in our agreements with partners, we're managing it much more in a business fashion than we used to before. Before it was very tactical, very operational.
You mentioned, you talked about how operations are being done at Hawaiian Airlines. I'm just wondering if I could tie it back to the AMBER program. If there is something that we could do differently with the program right now, and especially coming from your private sector experience, what do you think we should do differently?
To spark more interest, it wouldn't hurt to get into some of the bigger businesses and have an opportunity to talk with the HR departments and explain what the opportunities are. There are a lot of people who don't realize that you can actually get into grad school and maintain full-time employment, albeit challenging. It's doable. If a person like me can do it, just about anybody can, seriously. But I think it's a lot of communication with businesses that have that need to educate their workforce, and getting businesses to invest in the education of their current employees. I think that would be wonderful. You know, and having the Alumni Association with members in different parts of industry, I think is important as well.
Right. But yeah, I guess, you know, the curriculum is always evolving for the program, just to keep up to date in terms of meeting the training needs. I guess the question I had was, if there's something that could be done differently with the content of the program, what would that be? Especially, there's so many different things that business have to take care of right now.
Well, that's a question with a million answers. It's really going to depend on the type of industry you're talking with, and the type of businesses you're talking with as to what's important for them. I think the basis of the program gives you the tools to run a business within a business. I think it's already, you know, quite robust. You could tailor it to certain industry. I'm not sure that would serve every industry. It would just take a lot of communication with the internal training departments at a lot of these places to figure out what they're looking for in the way of graduates, what types of skill sets. You know, analysis and statistics are very important. I think that a lot of us, you know, slide rule users probably benefit a lot from learning, you know, more of the power of Excel and some of the stats add-ins that we got in the program. I think it was very, very valuable.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a subject that most people are afraid of.
Yeah, but it's one of those that once you lose your fear of it, you can gain tools that you just never really realized were there. And when you look at forecasting and statistical modeling, I should say, very powerful. You know, we've done Monte Carlos, you know, on routes and probability of flight interruptions, you know, using those kind of tools. We've looked at the effects of various, you know, multivariable regression analysis on time of day and length of flight, and to figure out what correlations are between on-time performance and various factors, to see if there are things we're doing to ourselves that prevent us from being an on-time airline.
That's amazing. I hope that there'll be a time when you can come in and be a speaker, because I think these some of the subjects you touch on, I mean, whether it's airline or other business and healthcare, they're all relevant. But I'm always looking out for speakers, so.
Well, I'll help in any way I can. I'm a proponent of the program. I think it was probably one of the most important milestones in my life.
I'm glad
I used it. Well, if you ask people, they'll tell you I don't use the tools as well as I should. But I think I use a lot more than I used to. But it's benefited me in many ways.
I'm glad to hear that. Now we're coming on our second break. So when we come back, I am interested in going back to some of the comments you make about Hawaiian Airlines and how it has evolved. So yeah, that's really the business side now.
It is. I'll tell you what I can.
I'm sure. My guest is Lance Higa. He is an alumnus of the Executive MBA program at Shidler College of Business. You are watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham, and I'd like to invite you to come and watch my show every Wednesday at 3. I'm interested in a variety of issues that have to do with politics and our local business economy. And I'd like to bring on guests who like to talk about everything from technology to social media to what we can be doing to improve our environment. And so I'd like to invite you every Wednesday at 3 to stay and watch my show here with ThinkTech Hawaii. And I'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. That's Ted Ralston. You know, Ted is the host of Where the Road Leads. It shows every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. It's about technology. It's about how people collaborating and solve problems with modern technology. It's where the road leads. We all know that. We should all be listening. Join us there, 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday. Now, what about that do you agree with?
All of it.
I knew he'd say that. Aloha. Say aloha.
Aloha.
Good.
Aloha. My name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island and the ER physician. Every other Tuesday, I get to host a show here on the ThinkTech program about healthcare. We call it Healthcare in Hawaii. It's really enjoyable for me to bring other healthcare leaders from around the state to talk about our pressing issues. Hawaii has long been the health state but we need to keep up the momentum, the inertia, and with your help and with your participation, we can come and share all of the big issues that are pressing day to day. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday, alternating weeks from 2 to 2:45.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. If you're just joining us, my guest today is Lance Higa. He is with Hawaiian Airlines and he is the Senior Director of Maintenance Planning / Maintenance Operations Control. Did I kind of say that right? It's a long title.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, we've talked about your executive MBA program experience, your aviation career. I guess, for those either kids, college kids, or even professionals interested in aviation career, what would you advise them? This question just came to me. Sorry.
Well, aviation is a very exciting career, and if you're inclined to want to be around airplanes and a lot of people, we carry a lot of people, it's a great job. It depends what you want to do, and there are people who are cut out to be excellent customer service agents who interact with our customers on a daily basis, and that is what the customer comes and leaves with. It's their impression of the airline. We want people who are Aloha spirited and that can communicate effectively and make people feel like they're on vacation from the time they get on the airplane till the time they get off. You have the in-flight flight attendants who are very much customer facing. If you like flying, if you're intrigued with flying airplanes, we have opportunities constantly for pilots. If you want to be a mechanic like I started out as, tremendous opportunity. We have a lot of mechanics who are in the 20, 30-year seniority range who eventually are going to look at retirement as an option, and we have to backfill those. We're working currently with the Honolulu Community College on creating an apprenticeship program in relation with our IAM union to try and grow an organic workforce.
IAM is the
International Association of Machinists.
Okay. Two things. You talk about being a mechanic. You must be very good with your hands, so.
Well, they didn't let me do it for that long, so.
Okay, just checking. Aloha spirit, that's a good way of starting. Of course, being in Hawaii, we're biased, but I certainly think that Hawaiian Airlines has the Aloha spirit. It's just really nice, when you're on the mainland, oh, it's Hawaiian Airlines. And I even remember when I was at the, one of the Smithsonian museums in DC, they have a whole booth about Hawaii and about Hawaiian Airlines. So that made me really proud.
Oh, it would make me proud if I got to see it. I have to go see if I can find it.
Yes, please do, yeah.
Definitely. I think, from the top down, our emphasis is on our guests and making the guest experience as fulfilling as possible, fulfilling expectations, because we are in a market that is generally discretionary spending related, and people don't want to spend their own hard-earned money for a bad experience. And we, delaying somebody into their vacation is cardinal sin in what we do. We want people to get on board and feel like they're in Hawaii when they get on the airplane. And some of the comments we get back from our guests are that it felt like they were in Hawaii. They felt like they were on vacation at the time they got on the airplane. And that's what we strive for. We really strive for customer satisfaction. Yeah.
I think the few times I flew the airline, it was a great experience. Now, I guess we started moving towards really the business side of things. You talk about customer satisfaction, that's important. Of course, you have to do all the back-end support to make that happen. Now, having been there for 29 years, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes. So I guess my question is, what are some of the strategic changes that you've noticed since you joined?
Well, internally at Hawaiian, there's been a lot of emphasis on moving towards analytics to run the business and finding opportunities for people that have that skill set to come in and supplement some of the operational and sales and marketing areas. It's been successful. We've clearly become much more focused on how to run the business more effectively. There's been a lot of changes in the landscape of aviation in Hawaii. It's primarily, if you have been around for the last 10 years, you'll know that prior to the last 10, there were two dominant carriers in the entire market. And I think Hawaiian was surprised, not shocked, but surprised that it came down to one dominant carrier. There have been many startups that have come and gone, and it is something that continuously happens in Hawaii. You'll have a startup carrier come in and compete They get in and they'll drop prices to try and gain market share. And at some point in time, it just doesn't work. But it's not going to stay like this forever. It's naive to think that there's going to be one major inter-island carrier and nothing else. So it's important for us to set the business up to be able to compete, especially on cost, with any competitor coming in. Because chances are it'll be a competitor that has a very big operation, a very big fleet, and has economies of scale. And we have to make sure that we can be cost competitive in that market.
You mentioned earlier on that there are flights there would be companies who would come in and compete. They'll come and go. Do we see more of that here than in other cities, not only in the U.S. or even internationally?
Having not really been in other markets, I couldn't tell you if new competition is a normal thing. I would think, though, just anecdotally, that it's tougher to start and stop businesses in Hawaii. We're such a remote location. It requires a tremendous infrastructure investment. It's costly to bring in equipment and people and find a workforce to sustain it because we're a small state. There aren't 20 pilots out there looking for a job tomorrow who can supplement your operation and help you start an airline up. So there's a lot of time to market to get it started, and aviation is very expensive. All of the assets are really, really expensive. Yeah.
Right. Before we get into the cost side, I want to ask you a little bit more about the market, because before the show, you were talking, the customers for Hawaiian Airlines, they are mostly destination, what do you call those, clients, customers, whereas I guess bigger airlines, they have the business people. So how do you compete with them? And I see other bigger airlines, so how do you manage that?
So our objective is, well, first of all, we target the vacation traveler. We're an origin destination carrier. We rely on people spending discretionary income, and the cost or the pricing for flights in similar markets is very, very close, very competitive. So our objective is to give you more value without adding costs, so that we win your business with all other things being equal. So a huge emphasis on customer satisfaction, huge emphasis on making people feel good when they get onto our airplanes. Yeah.
But I assume that being a smaller company, you can be more agile and innovative. So are there things that you are doing differently compared to, say, some of the bigger airline companies from the mainland, perhaps?
Well, so when you talk about competing with mega carriers, big, 800 airplane carriers, they have their own dedicated following. You have affinity programs that drive people to fly on various carriers. We have a pretty good affinity program, and we have a lot of membership.
Yeah,
but we don't necessarily compete in the business market. We just don't have a lot of those travelers. I think, in my opinion, and because I don't work in this area, I can't really speak to it with authority, but it feels to me like, we have to grow our own market of people who like what we give you in the way of a product. That's the reason why we give meals on flights. We want to make that experience just a little more satisfying for the same amount of money.
That actually makes a huge difference. Now, of course, recently, I guess 2 days ago, in Pacific Business News, there was an announcement saying that the airlines made profit, and I guess your CEO made some comments about some of the drivers that, such as fuel and foreign exchange. You mentioned that earlier on. Wonder if you can elaborate on that. So fuel, I can understand. The foreign exchange, how does that work, and how does it impact your business?
So we fly to a number of international destinations, and the passenger demographic that I just explained to you, the resort traveler, the vacation traveler, the discretionary income traveler, are affected by currency fluctuations. And as the dollar strengthens against foreign currencies, the buying power is reduced for international customers.
Right.
And obviously that's going to reduce the number of people who are going to want to take a family vacation to Hawaii. They might decide better to go to Guam if I'm from Asia. And so we have to deal with that as part of the business. And it's a thing that our marketing and sales group and up to and including Mark Dunkley look at on a constant basis. It's the reason why it was discussed in the quarterly earnings call. And conversely, though, when the dollar is strong, our domestic traffic is going to be stronger. So it's a balance. At times you're going to lose some international, but you're going to gain some domestic, and vice versa. And it depends on how big each of those markets are.
I'm interested in learning about the international market. I know you fly to so many other Asian countries. So how does that compare with the flights to the mainland? I guess in terms of profitability and
That I would not be able to speak to very eloquently at all. I know that our international markets are strengthening. We have cut a few that have underperformed, but I think the direction has been to stay with what we have currently, and I think the load factors there kind of speak for themselves. What we want to do is make sure people feel that they're getting a little extra out of the experience on us versus flying on another carrier.
Right. Now, my last question for you, well, I guess I made the comment earlier on that Hawaiian Airlines is an iconic company, especially for the state. So there must be a lot of things that we don't know about the airline. So can you tell us some of the little known facts about the airline?
Yeah, I could actually. So some people probably know this. We've advertised a little bit, but we were able to find the original aircraft that started Hawaiian Airlines.
And that was in
It was 2009 when we brought it back.
Oh, okay,
Right.
but the airline
1929.
Okay, 1929.
Yeah. So it's a 4-seat Belanca pacemaker, and we found it, had it refurbished, brought it back, and it's flying. And if you look up in the skies over Honolulu during the weekend, you see a red plane that flies a little slower than other planes. Makes a lot of noise.
Okay.
That's our Belanca, and we take employees up, so you can register for a slot on a Belanca ride. Probably about an hour ride, 45 minutes, and it'll take you around the island.
Oh, that sounds nice. Have you been on it?
I have not. My family has. They
Okay.
loved it, but I just haven't had time. It's work. But I'm just kidding. But it's a great experience. Everybody who's been on it, it thoroughly enjoyed it. And there's a chance that if you're on the Belanca, that our CEO may be your pilot, Mark Dunkley. He's
Oh my
he's
God.
a very accomplished pilot. He's an award-winning aerobatic pilot.
Aerobatic.
Aerobatics.
I don't suppose he does aerobatic flying with that.
No,
Okay.
no. The airplane's not rated for it, and he wouldn't do that to our employees. But he used to have an aerobatic plane here, and he flew it a lot. Yeah. Very
Okay.
talented pilot.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's one. Anything else?
A lot of people won't know it, but back in the 80s, we had operations around the world. We had bases set up with people, airplanes. We had a cargo operation in Macon, Georgia. We had a DC-8 operation in Niagara Falls, New York. We had a DC-8 operation in Philadelphia.
Okay.
We had a DC-8 operation in Clark Air Base in the Philippines. And we actually had a DC-9 operation in Ghana, Africa. Yeah.
I wonder why.
It was a sublease, wet lease arrangement with Ghana Airways. So we sent I think it was 2 of our planes and a group of people to support and fly it to Ghana, and they stayed out there for a while. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting
that
to see Hawaiian Airlines in Ghana.
Yeah, but I guess not anymore.
No.
Well,
No.
the company continues to evolve,
Yes, it
and
does.
I look forward to learning more about the company. And it's great to have you, Lance, on my show.
I was happy to be here. Anytime I can help, let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My guest today is Lance Higa from Hawaiian Airlines, also an alumnus from our Executive MBA program at the Shidler College of Business, University of Hawaii. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Do join us next week. Aloha.